So much has happened in the last 24 hours. Tina Turner has sadly passed away at the age of 83. Katy Perry has been threatening to quit American Idol because she doesn't like being painted as the nasty judge. And Kim Kardashian has been calling out woke people in a new interview about Kanye West. First up, Tina Turner, the queen of rock and roll, has died yesterday at the age of 83. She was said to have passed away peacefully in her Switzerland home. Her publicist released a statement saying, "With her, the world loses a music legend and a role model. There will be a private funeral ceremony attended by close friends and family. Please respect the privacy of her family at this difficult time." Since 1994, Tina had been living in Switzerland with her husband, German actor and music producer Erwin Bach. She got her Swiss citizenship in 2013. In recent years, she had been battling a number of serious health problems, including a stroke, intestinal cancer, and total kidney failure that required an organ transplant. Tina's manager of 30 years, Roger Davies, said in a statement that she was a unique and remarkable force of nature, with her strength, incredible energy, and immense talent. He said, "From the first day I met her in 1980, she believed in herself completely when few others did at that time. I will miss her deeply." On Instagram, Mick Jagger posted his own tribute saying that Tina was inspiring, warm, funny, and generous, and she helped him when he was young. Elton John said she was one of the world's most exciting and electric performers. Viola Davis also praised her as a first symbol of excellence and unbridled ownership of sexuality. There were also a ton of other heartwarming tributes coming from people like Naomi Campbell, Magic Johnson, and Kelly Rowland. Tina had one of the longest music careers in history, which started in the 1950s during the early years of rock and roll. She met her first husband Ike Turner in the late 50s when he was performing with his band Kings of Rhythm. He was 25 years old and she was only 17. She found prominence as one of their backing singers and soon went on to front the band. The couple found commercial success and eventually became one of the most electrifying acts of the 1960s, with hits like Proud Mary, Come Together, and I Wanna Take You Higher. Their other hits included 1973's Nutbush City Limits, which was all about the small town where Tina was born. But through it all, Ike became increasingly toxic, controlling, and violent. In fact, he was the one who changed her name from her birth name, Anna Mae Bullock, to Tina Turner, which was a decision that he made without her knowledge. After 2 decades of working with her awful husband, Tina finally managed to get away from him. Her survival and harrowing escape was dramatized in the 1993 film What's Love Got to Do With It, starring Angela Bassett. Tina went on to rebuild her career and become one of the highest selling female artists on the planet. In the 80s, she was an MTV phenomenon. That was a decade that she won 6 of her 8 Grammy Awards and had a dozen songs on the top 40. In fact, Tina had so much influence on that era of music that Mick Jagger himself admitted to taking inspiration from her live performances. To this day, we know that her music, her legacy, and her warmth as a person is going to live on for decades to come. Katy Perry has faced some intense criticism this season on American Idol, and apparently she's ready to quit the show because of it. She reportedly feels like she's being thrown under the bus by producers and accused them of editing her to make her seem like the nasty judge. An inside source spoke to Daily Mail and said that this season has been particularly hard on her because of all the controversies. They said she feels like her comments could have been removed. Katy became aware of the harsh criticism. Getting booed really upset her. She was trying to stay in her lane, do her job, and go home. They insisted that Katy went into it thinking she was going to foster young talent, and she only had good intentions from the jump. Quote, "She has accomplished so much in her career and is now being looked at as a nasty reality show judge. Katy's wanted out for quite some time now, but this season was way too much for her to handle. We know that she makes a very nice paycheck from the show, $25 million per season to be exact. But according to the source, the money doesn't even matter as much as her legacy. The reason she wants to quit is not about that money, she simply does not want her career to be defined by a talent competition where she isn't even performing." Fans really turned against her when she was accused of mom shaming by a contestant who quit the show. The viral exchange was with young mom Sarah Beth Lieb, who abruptly left in the middle of Hollywood Week. She then posted a TikTok calling out Katy Perry for mocking her lifestyle, saying that she was a 25-year-old mom with 3 kids. That whole thing made Katy come off as the villain of American Idol. But you might be surprised to know that that wasn't even her only controversy this season. Her jokes and criticisms of contestants have been met with boos and pushback from fans. So it's no surprise that she's reached a tipping point. As early as her first season, she sparked controversy by kissing a contestant without his permission, when he admitted that he'd never been kissed before. He later went on the record and called her out for that inappropriate behavior. He spoke to the New York Times and said, "I was a tad bit uncomfortable. I wanted to save it for my first relationship. I wanted it to be special." And of course, Katy tried to frame the whole incident as a joke, but people were pretty horrified. Even even if she's now claiming to be a victim of bad editing, it's a little too late for her to be trying to distance herself from the show. She joined American Idol as a judge in 2018, and it seemed like a good decision at the time given that her music career was stalling. But fast forward 5 years and she still hasn't made any kind of industry comeback. If she really does want out, you would have to wonder what's next for her career. Katy hasn't put out a hit in years. Her last 2 albums completely flopped. In fact, it was so bad that in 2020, after the release of Smile, her label held a focus group to try and figure out why she's no longer one of the most notable female pop artists. They reportedly asked focus groups for advice on what to do with her image and her marketing in order to try and make young people care about her again. But Katy's fall from the top was always about more than just fading star power. It said a lot more about the changing nature of pop music and the industry as a whole. She hasn't faded into obscurity entirely, but it's really telling that the only time you hear about her these days is when something's happened on American Idol. Her most recent efforts to pivot to politics backfired in a big way. Last year she endorsed Republican billionaire Rick Caruso for LA Mayor, which resulted in her being attacked online to such a degree that she had to limit her comments on her posts. Of course, Katy is already very rich and will inevitably stay that way as people keep streaming her old hits, so she really could leave Idol and do whatever she wanted. But if she really wants to fix her image, there's going to be a massive uphill battle from this point on. And now let's talk about Kim Kardashian's latest interview. The reality star went on the On Purpose podcast with Jay Shetty earlier this week, and one part of that conversation has now gone viral. She said, "There's nothing worse than when someone is like so woke and they're on this therapy journey and they expect you to be right there with them. It's a beautiful thing to sit back and watch people make mistakes." But that sentence left a lot of people scratching their heads wondering whether or not she actually knows the definition of woke. She said that she wants to allow people to learn from their mistakes, grow and evolve. And this is about the time that she brought up her divorce from Kanye West. She called their marriage beautiful and said that it ultimately failed because she couldn't change her partner. Kim said, "You can't force your beliefs and project that onto someone who thinks something totally different. It's okay to realize that this life is so short and you should go and find the people that align with what you really believe in." Ultimately, she felt like she couldn't help someone that doesn't want to be helped. Without directly naming Kanye in the interview, she explained that their different views are natural and said you can't really force things on other people, which is a really interesting way to paint his beliefs. It's not entirely clear how much she knew throughout their relationship, but they were together for almost 10 years, so you would think at some point she understood the full scope of his thinking. Kim also spoke about the trials and tribulations of raising her 4 kids and taking on the bulk of parenting responsibilities. She said that parenting is a thing that has taught her the most about herself because it has been extremely challenging. She admitted that there are nights when she cries herself to sleep and feels like there's a tornado in her house. A lot of that has to do with all the moods and the personalities of her 4 children because they do tend to fight quite a lot and she's the only one there to break it up. So in that sense, it sounds like parenting is very stressful for her regardless of how much help she has. Kim has given us a brief glimpse behind the curtain before when she revealed just how much she's struggling to co-parent with her ex. Back in December, she went on Angie Martinez's IRL podcast and said, "I definitely protected him and I still will in the eyes of my kids. So in my home, my kids don't know anything that goes on in the outside world." At one point in that interview, she admitted that she was trying to keep her kids from being exposed to their father's anti-Semitic statements. She said, "I'm holding on by a thread. I know that I'm so close to that not happening, but while it's still in the way, I will protect that to the end of the earth as long as I can. My kids don't know anything." Apparently she had to become best friends with their teachers so she can keep tabs on what they're exposed to at school. Then at home she has to limit their access to social media and what they can watch on TV. Kim insisted that none of her children's schoolmates have ever said anything to them about their dad. She went on to say, "Of course I want to disassociate him and specific thoughts and things being said because that's not me. But if we're riding to school and they want to listen to their dad's music, I have to have that smile on my face and blast his music and sing along with my kids and act like nothing's wrong. As soon as I drop them off, I can have a good cry or text back and do what I gotta do." Towards the end of that interview, Kim breaks down crying and says co-parenting is really effing hard. Although her life with her ex is very different now, she says that she's hoping to follow in her mum's footsteps in passing down some important life lessons to her kids. She described Chris as the most warm, welcoming person and praised her ability to make everyone feel invited. She said, "If I can just pass that on to my kids, just the experiences that we have as a family, whether we're just sitting in our pajamas and hanging out, we make time to be together, and I hope that my kids want to make the time to be together when they grow up with their cousins and their aunts and just the whole family." Later on, Kim also spoke about her dating life since her relationship with her ex Pete Davidson. Well, she hasn't dated anyone else since then, but she does think that she'll always be a hopeless romantic and always want to be in love. Like a lot of romantics, she just likes the idea of sharing her life with someone. As we know, her relationship with Pete went from late 2021 to the summer of last year, and through it all, Kanye became the antagonist. His behavior almost constituted stalking. He publicly begged Kim to take him back, threatened to physically harm Pete, and posted humiliating memes about him over the course of several weeks. And just last November, he accused Kim of having an affair with NBA player Chris Paul while they were still married. The Kanye saga has been incredibly concerning to watch, and as it stands, a reconciliation between the two of them at this point would be impossible. So what do you guys think about this latest story? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next video.